Greetings, welcome to my channel. I'm Sean, the Feral Witch of the Wilds. So this is my second take at an introduction video. The first one was right when I started this channel, which is a little over a month ago. And it was pretty choppy. I've learned a lot about some of what to do and a whole lot about what not to do for shooting these videos. So I thought it was time to update things and get a much better introduction. One of the things I found is I really have to have a clipboard with my bullet point notes to keep myself on track. So I currently live in the Northwest USA in a somewhat rural area. Used to be a lot more rural, but it's grown up a lot. Originally from an island in southeast Alaska. So I've always been a solitary practitioner. I don't specifically identify with any specific path. So I know labels seem really common these days. So I was looking online, noodling around to say, well, what are for all these little pigeonholes, which ones could you say, well, that's part of my practice? And I actually came up with a list here that you could say folk, green, kitchen, gray, hedge, sea, forest, solitary, healing, and pagan. Wow, that's 10 pigeonholes that I could be shoved into. I don't think this talks to how broad my practice is. I think it talks to how narrow a little pigeonhole that has been put out there. So I don't use a label like that. Really, the closest I come is, I think, folk witch, simply because to me that's a pretty broad category for how it's often defined. And especially the fact that I'm self-taught instead of being taught by somebody to follow a certain structure and everything. I think that probably fits me best, but to me it's enough to simply say I'm a witch. So my religious beliefs can be generalized as Central European, Continental Celtic. So ancestry appears to be Germanic. Based on what I can figure out from what little oral history was passed down to me, probably Germanic with a blending in of Celtic tribes. So I'm guessing that when the Germanic tribes moved in to the areas that had been occupied by the Celts up till then, that instead of being one of those cases where the Germanic tribe wiped out the Celtic tribe, probably was a bit more of an assimilating the Celtic tribe, at least in part, into the Germanic traditions. So I've been tempted to take a DNA test just to see what it'll say, but haven't yet. It would be a hoot to see what that has to say, because I don't entirely believe that they really can do the breakdown they advertise on those. I've long considered starting a YouTube channel. I mean, it's been one of those thoughts in the back of my head. But really what served as the driver to actually do this was the occulty conversation. And I do have an occulty video answering those initial questions that were put out. It's very rough. I had no notes for it. I'm not going to redo that one, simply because, while it's rough, there's also a level of honesty you get when it's completely unscripted like that. That when it's scripted more, you might think, well, should I really say that? So the other thing that got me to do this was just curiosity about what's out there. I mean, as I said, I've always been a solitary practitioner, so I wanted to see more of what's out there. For the vast majority of my time on this path, the internet, as we know it now, did not exist. In fact, at the initial stages, even the initial predecessors to the internet really did not exist. So it was an interesting learning path. So possibly engage with others in the community. And I'm also wondering, I mean, there are more people like me out there. Kind of hard to connect with them in real life because we tend to keep our mouth shut and work in the shadows. And it's kind of the nature of when you feel drawn to the solitary path, but also the nature of the society I live in is not overly accepting. Especially not overly accepting of someone who is a witch and educated and works in the STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics field. Actually, I'm drafting out a little talk on that with kind of a few opinions. I mean, I feed in witchcraft to YouTube. What do I get? It's almost always young, attractive women, plus a whole lot of people who, this will offend some, but I'm not going to leave it unsaid. People that I think are more into the witch aesthetic than actual witchcraft. And I'm not saying that's wrong. If that's what they truly like, okay. But there's a difference between cosplaying a witch and being a witch. The one thing I don't really see when I do those searches is people like me. But I bet they're out there. So frequency of posting, I had originally planned to post at least weekly, and I have discovered that when you have a full-time job, 4 horses currently, a hobby farm, that really was not realistic. So my goal now is to post twice a month at a minimum. We'll see if it turns out more. There might be just short little, even unscripted thoughts that I do, but for the longer drafted out, then I think about twice a month is a realistic deal, especially since I've actually ended up redoing videos quite a few times here. And that's another series that I'm going to do is of just things I've learned, some of which seem incredibly obvious in hindsight, but share that with people that if you want to do a YouTube channel or a similar long format social media channel, some thoughts that might help you. So I'll be doing that. So look forward to the journey and hope you'll come along. G'day.